about Macaulay, and I gave the brief on Macaulay. Then, then we all spoke about the English missionaries. We came to know who were Orientalist and Anglicists. These are the important topics we all discussed. Then then we came to know that English has a language between the Indian rulers, British, or the company officials. English has the language. This is the language between the Indian rulers who were ruling India, the Mughals, uh, whoever the Mughals were ruling. So Indian rulers uh, became politically weak because Indian rulers' language was the Oriental language with their mother tongue, whatever it is, like that may be a Persian or Sanskrit, whatever. If Aryan side of people are ruling, that should be Sanskrit, and if that is Mughal side ruling, it should be Persian. So, in the bureaucracy, in the political field also, Indian rulers became weak. Why they became weak? Because English language was ruling. So, but Indian rulers, they didn't know English, and their language was Persian for the administrative purpose. So politically, they were becoming weak. Then British bureaucracy became stronger, and more communication was done in English, and the communication took place mostly on the British bureaucracy. So that's what I saw. Persian was on the Persian language was on the convention writings in the democracy for the administration purpose. Whatever this language was getting diminished because of the growth in the English language. British bureaucracy completely took over the powers of the Indian rulers because of the demands of the language, Persian language. The availability of English education and changes in the policies of the company and the opening of the job market increase the quality of English education and English in India. This was a thing we were discussing, and we also discussed about the East Indian Company. East Indian Company has started about, but the company showed no interest. We have already discussed what showed interest. The only Charter Act was renewed, just it was renewed in 1830, but it not do the work. There is no education in the there is no English in the education phase. This was the first phase. You have to remember that. And when you talk about the second phase, that is the transportation phase. That all we discussed in the last two classes. There were no clear-cut policies. This phase is the implementation of the Macaulay Minute, the transportation phase. That's the place where Macaulay has come. Then the charter again renewed back in 1853. Now, our guy, today we are talking about the guy called Woods. The establishment of universities in India was a significant milestone in the development of modern education in the country. This process was influenced by the several key factors and policies initiatives, particularly the Woods Dispatch. Today we are going to discuss about this Woods Dispatch of 1854. Here's a detailed look at the circumstances and developments that led to the establishment of the universities in India. So when we talk about the Macaulay, he brought the English into the education system. He thought that English should be the medium of instruction in the schools, primary schools or higher schools or secondary or in the universities, whatever it is, English should be the medium of instruction. This was the point was kept by Macaulay. But when it comes to Woods, but when it comes to Woods, Woods was the guy. One second. Woods was the guy who thought that education should be in both the languages. He was a guy who thought that even the vernacular language, whatever the vernaculars are, like whoever speak whatever the dialect is, like it may be Telugu, Hindi, Bengali, whatever the dialect is, would is a guy who said that there is an equal importance to both the things, that is English and vernacular languages. So before we dive into the woods, it's a let's talk about woods briefly. Before that, we will get a glimpse of what happened in the background. Okay, so background and early educational efforts, we'll see what was the educational system in the background before the primary, secondary, and higher education got into the field. So when you talk about indigenous is the all the, sorry,
Mixture of.
yeah, all the when we talk about languages, we say vernacular languages, the ordinary people who speak the dialects, the local language. So indigenous is also the culture of all the rural areas. It covers all the rural, describes any group of people native to a specific region. In other words, it refers to the people who lived there before colonists or settlers arrived, defined new borders, and began to occupy the land. So, when you talk about indigenous, you have to remember that these are the people who were the natives for the specific region. So for a specific region, who are the natives, they are mixed of their, I mean, their religion, their culture are different when you compare to the other group of the people. So all these groups have their own culture, their own language. So these all together will termed as an indigenous people or indigenous group, whatever it is. So before 19th century, education in India was predominantly traditional. So we already, I gave this about a hint about this in first class, I guess. So what are the educational institutes before? Those were the pathshalas, madrasas, and gurukulas that we already discussed. So these institutions primarily catered to the local communities and were based on the religious and classical texts. So what I'm trying to say here is there, this are the medium of instructions. So these are the schools, these are the institutions before, that is, I'm talking about the background. So but mm what are the subjects were teaching in that institutions? That was nowhere English. They used to teach only about the religion, culture, whoever's the religion is. If Muslims, they taught about their culture. If it is Hindus, they taught about their culture. So these were the institutions, but they taught only about the classical texts, I mean, the literature of their own religion and their culture. So they taught only these things in their institutions. Then, when British has invaded and British colonial influence has happened, then we got the universities and colleges. The establishment of universities in India was significantly influenced by the policies and the administrative needs of the British colonial rules. And then initially indifference to local education. So there was different set of educational systems introduced. First they thought that they'll just educate the people, then they thought that they'll bring English, then then they granted some funds. So there is a process, there is a step by step process what happened for the English in India after British has invaded us. We also spoke about Charter Act. In which year? That is in 1813. You should remember the um, years properly. And we know I highlighted few things so that you'll keep that in mind. What is the Charter Act? They granted some amount of money, that is 1 lakh rupees. And this legislation passed by whom? By the British Parliament, which played a crucial role in shaping the future of education in India. And then took control over this educational policy, and then the company's primary focus of economic gain. So they thought that there was no interest in bringing English. Their primary gain was to do the trade and increase their economy. So when Charter Act was after the Charter Act, what they thought initially, there were two groups. One is Orientalist and then Anglicist. So there were the controversy between them, and who supported which group. Orientalists, they supported the vernacular languages, and Anglicists supported the English language. They favor the English language. So when Macaulay wanted to introduce English, there was a discussion going on. So we understood all these things, and the next comes Macaulay's minute. What he did, Macaulay is a guy who introduced English into the Indian education. So he spoke. I mean, he gave two offended statements saying that Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellectual. This was his hidden agenda. But for the namesake, he was bringing English into the education system. We all know that for to the increase in the trade and economy. But he was not a supporter of the Indian culture guy. So he gave the bold statements like Indian in blood and English in color. And also he also gave one more statement I've already discussed. I'll ask that question in the end. So
Single
then,
shell of single
sorry.
shell of
Yeah,
single
yeah,
shell
correct,
of
correct,
English literature
correct.
is far better than Indian and Arabic literature.
Correct, correct. He said that. So there was a debate on the Orientalist and Anglicist. We discussed all those things, and then comes to the and now we are talking about the Woods Dispatch. What is this Woods Dispatch? The Woods guy often offered, he is also called as Magna Carta of English education in India. Remember that? And he is the landmark for the history of Indian education. And why and what is his role in the British government? He was a president there for the British East Indian Company. It laid out a comprehensive and systematic approach to education in India. This dispatch had a key recommendations and long-lasting impacts of Indian education. Whatever he came out with, whatever he came out with is also prominent, is also crucial. Let's go look into it. So, mm, if we talk about more about Wood's dispatch is also considered as a foundation for both the subjects. For both the languages. Like if I say both, I mean it is like English and vernacular languages. When the Macaulay has said that only English should be the medium of instruction, but Woods has changed it into. He also found out that vernacular languages was also as important as English. So, by promoting what his agenda of promoting both the things was that promoting a bilingual education system, it aimed to make education accessible. It makes education easy because when the instruction of medium is English, maybe children don't understand everything properly. They won't get the exact meaning of the whatever the subject is. He thought that. So then he was thinking that for the primary level. when the children is in the primary section, so then we have to teach them with the vernacular, whatever the language they speak, the mother tongue. We have to speak, give them with the vernacular studies, and when they come to the secondary or higher education, we'll give the English. That's what he's meant of bringing both the languages like English and vernacular. By promoting a bilingual education system, it aimed to make education accessible and inclusively while preparing a class of English education Indians to assist in the administration and modernization of in India. Then this dual approach was intended to balance culture preservation with the benefits of Western knowledge. So here he is giving the importance to the cultural preservation, whoever the culture, whatever the culture the child is coming from. So that is equally important. So when a person is giving so much importance to the local languages, then their tendency to become, I mean, to learn English will become more easy, and and in that scenario, they can teach the Western benefits, and this will be helpful in the administration. So Woods was thinking this way. He wants to the foundation of the English should foundation of the education should be both like English and vernacular languages. That's what I mentioned, the dual medium of instruction. He concentrated only in the dual medium of instruction, importance of both English and vernacular languages as mediums of instruction, education system with vernacular language used to at the primary level, and English introduced at the higher levels of education to ensure education was accessible to the broader population, including those in the rural areas who spoke vernacular languages. Vernacular languages were to be used as a medium of instruction in the primary schools to ensure basic education was accessible to all the children in their native languages. This approach aimed to increase literacy rates and make education more inclusive. So, uh, this was his idea of putting his point of view. So there are few recommendations which you have to keep in mind. There could be a question also for you in your exam. They can ask what are the key recommendations of the Woods Dispatch. So I gave you the key points. You take the key points and elaborate it. System of education. You have to understand what was the Woods plan of bringing two dual things, dual languages. So, system of education, if you take system of education, the dispatch emphasized the need for a well organized and structured education system. This included creating a hierarchy of educational institutions, starting from primary schools to the higher institutions. What this education meant for the universal access, this aim was to make education accessible to all the sections of society, though in practice this often meant a focus on educating a class and could assist in the administration. So the next comes medium of instruction. What is this medium of instruction? English for higher education and vernacular language for the primary education. You should elaborate it. What is English for the dispatch recommended English as the medium of instruction for higher education. Why this was intended to align Indian education with the British education system and to create the class of Indians proficient in English who can assist in the governance and in the administration level. So what it is in the primary education, vernacular languages at the primary level, the use of vernacular languages was encouraged. This was to ensure that the education was accessible to the masses, to the rural people who were more comfortable in their native language than in the English. So expansion of schools, Primary schools dispatch advocated for established of more primary schools across the country to provide basic education to the children. There were more primary schools than when only the medium English was a medium of instruction. There were only less primary schools. After whatever the Woods thing has happened, sorry, whatever the Woods thing has happened, there was an increase in the schools. If you take it secondary and high schools, it also recommended the expansion of the secondary and high schools, the educational needs beyond the primary level. This was a crucial for creating a path for students to progress to higher education. There was also there was a certain perfect cut to cut policies, like the teacher to should be trained. There used to give the training for teacher. So before that, there were no such policies. So he from the Woods they have for the education system they started to have the cut to cut policies. There is again teachers training. What happens if the teacher is trained? There you'll get the quality of education. And there are also the training institutions for teachers will also increases. Quality of education, recognizing the importance of qualified teachers. The dispatch stressed the need for proper training of teachers. It recommended the establishment of teacher training institutions to improve the quality of education. And teacher training institutions, these institutions were to focus on modern teaching, not the ancient or the old one. The methods and the curriculum, uh, everything was changed, and this new curriculum was to ensure that teachers were well prepared and well educated before they entered into the class to teach the children. And then universities establishment, founding universities, university models. So, one of the most significant recommendations was the establishment of universities in the three presidencies of India. This is an important thing you have to remember. What are the three universities of India? And where they were is like Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. These three cities you have to remember. And these were the three first big universities which they established. These universities were to function as affiliating bodies, overseeing the conduct of examinations. That means whatever the broader exams were conducted for the higher education. So those were happening in these primarily established universities, which were in Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. The three entity there is a name for these three universities. Some Sipai kind of name is, I'll tell you in the other class. So you have to remember that. So these universities were to function as affiliating bodies, overseeing the conduct of examinations and the awarding of the degrees and mean certificates, whatever it is. University models, the proposed universities were um, molded after the University of London, focusing on providing a higher standard of education and encouraging the study of arts, sciences, literature, etc. So there are so many more recommendations added to this, that is encouragement to the indigenous education we have already discussed. And what happened in the primary education in the Woods dispatch, that also I have discussed. And if you take about the secondary educations, and there is also called the grant in aid, the grant of some fund, the dispatch advocated for the expansion of secondary education. And there was also, if you take, there is also a women's education. In this field, there is also a topic called women's education. Women's education has started um, getting getting a name from this Woods thing. Children, especially children, girls, and women's education also started um, uh, from this period. And when you talk about the role of government and missionaries education, enterprises in education and religious education, when you talk about religious education, while the dispatch focused primarily on secular education, you know what is secular means, right? There is no side taking of any caste or religion. So a person, if he's not taking any if his policies or his rules, his ideologies are not meant to, or not supporting any religion or caste, he is called a secular person. So in the same way, Wood's dispatch, whatever the recommendations he came out with, he's telling that his recommendations are secular. That means it is not supporting any vernacular language. He is just saying that a vernacular language, be it Telugu, Hindi, whatever it is, their native language is also important as much as English is important. And why he said that? Because any culture will give moral values. Some They have some rules, they have some ethics. So if children are taught that, they will learn the education, they will understand the instructions, they will it will help to a child to form into a good character. So these things, Wood was only concentrating on, because Woods was a secular guy, he was concentrating on this main point, but not supporting any other uh, religion or caste. That's what he's trying to say there. It recommended that the moral and religious education should be imparted in schools without promoting, what is that, secularism or favoring any particular region. That's what he's trying to say. The dispatch emphasized the importance of promoting ethnic values. All he wanted is building up some moral and ethic values in a child, and moral principles as part of the well-rounded education. That's what he meant to be when he talk about English and the vernacular languages. When he's talking about both the languages, that's what he meant. So there was also grant in aid, a topic called grant in aid, and that means and they grant some fund for whatever the process is. So the Woods Dispatch 1884 proposed a system of giving grants to educational institutions. The Woods Dispatch recommended the provision of financial assistance or grants to support both government managed and privately managed schools. So here you can see, they are not just concentrating on the government aided schools. They are also talking about privately managed schools. So the grant is for both the purposes. So I mean both the schools. The concept of grant in aid aimed to promote. This is only to promote the growth of education by providing financial assistance to schools while ensuring certain standards. It allowed schools to receive funding from the government while maintaining a degree of autonomy in their management and operations. Grant in aid became an integral part of the educational system in the colonial India, facilitating the expansion of education by supporting a wide range of educational institutions, including primary, government funded schools, and those managed by private individuals or organizations, thereby promoting inclusively and access to education for various communities across the country. Implementing and establishing of universities. Shall we stop there or should I continue? Do you have any questions so far?
Now 5 minutes, 10 minutes lunch break, ma'am.
Sorry?
Any 5 minutes lunch break shall I give or continue?
You should have your lunch before
Ma'am,
one.
continue, ma'am, continue.
Yeah, yeah. So there is no breaks. So I'm just asking because I'm going in a flow. I don't want you to get too much into your brain. So I just want to give a short break, like 1 minute break.
No, no, ma'am. Continue.
Okay. So let's continue. Implement and establishment of universities. This is very important. You please, whoever it is, will don't have textbooks, please screenshot it. As I told you, what are the universities? What are the three universities which we are talking about? So there is an importance of this point. So, when it's saying universities, following the recommendations of the Woods Dispatch, the British authorities took steps to establish universities. One is university in Calcutta, one is in Bombay, and in Madras. So, Calcutta and Bombay and Madras, all the three universities was established in the year 1857. Right, established as a first modern university in India to the educational needs of the Bengal presidency, found and the Bombay University founded to serve the educational requirements of the Bombay presidency, and the Madras University, Madras presidency. These three universities started in the year of the Great Mutiny, called that's what Sepoy Mutiny by the British. So these three universities are also called the Sepoy Mutiny by the British. Okay, these universities initially served as affiliating universities, as I told you. What did mean by affiliated? Meaning they did not provide teaching directly, but rather affiliated with the various colleges, like whatever the university we are studying, and Usman University. These are affiliated ones. So, uh, those were the first universities of our India affiliated with the various colleges, overseeing their examinations and granting degrees. This model ensured a standardized education system and maintained high academic standards to maintain the high academic standards. Okay. Sorry. And what are the effects? What are this class education class? What are the high standards? Just to emphasis on the English education and higher education led to the create on of an educated class prominent in English. This group played a critical role in the administration and later in the nationalist movements against the British rule. Expansion of education, foundation for the modern education. Over time, the recommendations of the Woods Dispatch led to the significant expansion of the education system in India that we already discussed. More schools and colleges were established, comparing to before what all the schools were there, and education became more accessible to a larger segment of the population. The policies led on the key recommendations that bought up from the Woods Dispatch were out in the provided the foundation for the modern education system in India. And they focus the systematic on their focus is only for the systematic education, teacher training, and so on. Recommendations we discussed already, and the establishment of the universities also shaped in this phase the educational landscape of India for years to come. So, so what happened? What impact it took place, and what it legacy it left for us? Let us discuss some points on this. The Woods Dispatch of 1854 was a played a pivotal role of the document in history and in our Indian education by emphasizing a structured and organized approach to education, recommending the use of English as a medium of instruction for higher education, and advocating for the establishment of universities. This recommendations has laid the groundwork for the modern education system, whatever system we have in India now. The long-term impacts of these recommendations were profound, leading to the creation of an educated class They play the significant role in the both the administration and eventually, and it also helped in our independence struggle of our independence. So um, this whatever the legacy, whatever the English that that brought into the universities, the English in the bureaucratic domain was the beginning of the uh, first English in India. When you talk about English in India, the English bureaucratic domain is the first English domain brought into English in India. The thus bureaucratic English rights or whatever the documents they've written was in English. So that writings dominates more, that English dominates more than the English what we talk about now, what we talk now. So most of the domains then were in the English, whatever the bureaucratic English were there. English education also opened up that was a time there was a print media was also going on, so printing thing was also started. So then when the printing thing started, you have to be creative in writing. So whatever the writing happened, that should be creative. So after getting English into these universities, so creative writing also increased. Printing media published publications also took place. So school magazines also took place. Annual reports of the colleges, write-ups that dealt with the topics like English school magazines, and there were also Shakespeare's play and the all these the plays happened in the theaters. So they you should write a review, or the critic should write some review of the place after saying that. So everything whatever was happening, hot and happening, was happening in English writing only. So these all the things took place. The revolution took place after the Woods Dispatch, when the universities, the learning of English was enormously increased. So children learned English, the in the higher education level, in secondary level. So there were more schools, more universities, more colleges. And after establishing all these educational institutions, so what all happened, what are the impact it got, and what the legacy it created. So that's what this topic is. And then there is also a topic called Introduction of English Literature as a Study, Subject of Study. So I thought I'll stop you here. Then there is also two blocks. There is also through three blocks which are very deep and um, if you say they're kind of very hard to memorize and listen. So I thought after this second phase, after this phase I'll jump into the globalization phase. So I'll go to the globalization phase and then come to the institutional phase, so as to you get some interest. So I'll stop you. I'll get back with the globalization phase. Just give me a minute, okay?
Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah. Hello.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Now your mic is muted.
Hello,
ma'am.
ma'am. Ma'am, hello, ma'am. Your screen.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Now
Yeah,
visible.
yeah. Okay, okay. So before jumping into globalization, there are just few slides. There was a technical error. Okay. Mm, just we'll understand the literature because who are the scholars of English writing and who were the scholars of Indian writing? We'll just have a glimpse of them. You need to know the study of no English literature writers and the Indian writers. Um, introduction of English literature as a subject of study. So when you talk about English literature, it's sorry. So in England, if you take about the historical context, early perception, what was there? It is like English literature was not initially considered as a respectable subject. So as now English has become globalization, but when you talk about pretext, like historical context, in England, I'm talking about in England, not in India. So in England, English was thought that it was not an respectable subject in either to talk or in academic study in England. So what were the languages they used that time was Latin and Greek, as you know. So whenever you come across a new word, it says that it is coming from Latin or it is from coming from Greek. Whenever you take a science term or anything, we already came across this Latin and Greek things. So the universities were like Oxford and Cambridge, we all know. So their English was not that respectable that in that period. So over the evolution, after the evolution, what time? Over a time period with the rise of the notable English writers. Who were they? William Shakespeare, we already know. Geoffrey Chaucer and John Milton. They have given some beautiful writings, their literature and everything. Because of these writers, the English subject came into contact, and then it also got the English also got its name, and people also showed interest in English language in the historic context I'm talking about, and in which place it is in England. Formal introduction of in 19th century development, the formal study of English literature began to take shape in England during the 19th, that was a period of World War, I think. Is Oxford University, the University of Oxford established its first chair of English language and literature in 1904. There was also Oxford dictionary before, but there were no English words in it. But the English words came into contact with the dictionary was in the year 1904. That's what it's saying. Cambridge University, the University of Cambridge followed with similar advancements around the same time. When you take about William Shakespeare, what did he write? He wrote some plays, sonnets, showcased the expressive power of English, earning him a place among the great literary figures. Shakespeare work influenced the perception of English as a language capable of profound artistic and intellectual expression. It's undoubtedly, and whatever the thing has written about the Shakespeare, it is undoubted. So Geoffrey Chaucer, also often called the father of the English literature. So Chaucer, the Canterbury Tales, I guess you are reading that in your English literature, illustrated the versatile of Middle English and its potential for narrative and poetic form. Then comes John Milton, his epic poem Paradise Lost. You have that in your textbooks. So demonstrated the English could be used to produce works of high artistic and intellectual merit, comparable to the great works of a classical antiquity. So when it comes to India, we discussed about England. Now, when we come to India, what were the prehistorical context before colonization and after colonization? Let's get into this. So when you talk about colonial administration under British rule, India became a testing ground for various policies. So that's what we discussed from the Charter Act. They tested, they did this, they took away the policies, then came with the new ones. So it is all like a testing ground. India became a testing ground for the various policies, including educational reforms. The British saw education as a means to consolidate their control and create a class of educated Indians who could assist in governance. This is about the colonial administration. Initial resistance was There was initial resistance to English education for traditional Indian scholars and local communities who valued their own rich educational traditions. Who are they? Who are the great scholars of our our Indian literature, which is Sanskrit? That is Valmiki, Vedavyasa, Kalidasa. Valmiki notable work is Ramayana. All know Vedavyasa's notable work is Mahabharata. Kalidasa's works are Meghaduta and Shakuntal. You all know that. So, if our this is before colonization, I'm talking about before the literature. So, what you have to also know the Tamil literature. So, just who are the guy and what did he wrote? What are the notable work? You just keep it in mind. Tamil literature, Tilvalur, and he wrote Tirukullur. Tirukal, a classic Tamil text consisting of one. Hello, am I audible? So today
Yes,
I'm
madam.
facing so much of.
Yes, madam.
Okay,
Little bit louder, ma'am, please.
okay. That's what today I'm facing some technical. My mic is not working. Okay, so the other guy is Kamban. These two guys, Kamba Ramayana. Kamban wrote Kamba Ramayana. Okay, and then Kannada literature, Pampa Rana. What Pampa wrote is Vikramarjuna Vijaya. And Rana wrote Gadyada. Uh, So we all discussed whoever the 90s kids are, they know from their Telugu textbook, there are three mm, mm, main main people who wrote who are very good at Telugu literature, who is Nannaya, Tikkanna, Yerra Pragada. So these three, they call as three entities. So Nannaya wrote Mahabharata. Bhatta was one of the three poets, as I told you, who translate the Mahabharata into Telugu. Okay. Tikkanna Somayaji, he wrote Andhra Mahabharatam, a poetic retelling of the Mahabharata in Telugu, known for its literary richness. So, Persian literature, and then comes globalization. So, I'll stop by. Let's get into the. We'll finish off this block also today, globalization. All right. So, what is globalization and which language we are talking about in the globalization? Do you know what is globalization? When I say globalization, what does it mean?
Universal.
Correct. So it's like we are so globalization in the context of English. Okay, so in the context of English language only, we are talking about the English language. So how did English has now become the international commodity, like how we purchase oil and the microchip, just like that. English also has become the English is a global phenomena. I mean, English is a global language. So from the stage where there was no English in the country, from the pre-transportation stage till here, whatever we reached till today. If we stop, if we give the break for the middle part, so well, if we jump today's scenario, the modern scenario, what is going on with the English language? Let's discuss about that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Madam, your mic is muted, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, before English came into contact, how was our Indian situation? If we take a look at that village-centered life. First, we had that village-centered life. Life revolved only in the small groups, the small Crete villages, communities very tightly bond, very with strong social ties among residents. That was our scenario before English came into contact. How were the family centered, and we were so much of family centered and community centered. Okay, how were the dynamics there? Family units were central to social and economic life. Our economic life is only bounded to our families, and it is family centered life. Families interacted regularly to meet communal needs. Skills and knowledge, what were our skills and knowledge, were passed from our ancestors, from our generation ancestors to to our great grandfather, from there to grandfather, from there to father, from father to us. So it passed down from generation within the families, whatever the life skills, whatever the things were. So when did this ruler thing come, ruler and settled existence? When we talk about this, most people lived in rural areas, engaging in agriculture, and what were their work? Agriculture and related activities. Life was stable and less mobile, with the family staying in the same area for generations. What is the feudalism hierarchy? What, as a way of life, feudalism was widely accepted as a social and economic system. Leaders of families, communities, and regions played significant roles. These leaders were responsible for protection and governance of their units, for their group. Local experience influencing imagination and perception. What are their imagination perceptions? Only bounded to their experiences. That's it, not more than that. People imagination and worldwide view were shaped by their immediate local experiences. That's it, not that means they have no exposure to the world or the other part of the place. There was a desire to extend local understanding to a broader, more universal context. What does that mean? That means they had limited exposure. That their engagement, I mean, their knowledge only bounded to the stories, whatever they got it from their ancestors. So whatever the experience, there are so much of in a village centered life, people's daily experiences were confined only to their local surroundings. They interacted primarily with their own family faces. I mean, their whatever they're staying, the landscapes and activities. the, this is before globalizing, just to give the touch of the pre period of the globalization. So practical knowledge, what practical knowledge do they have? Just the skills of hunting and agriculture, such as farming, craftsmanship, and domestic chores, whatever they learned, were learned from hands-on experience and rooted with the specific needs and resources of the local environment. Community stories and myths, whatever the Sai Kumar. So somebody is drawing on the screen. Please don't do it. Community stories and myths, whatever the folk tales, legends, and myths were based on the local events, geography, and notable figures, reinforcing a shared community identities and values. So this were only there imagination and perception, that won't go beyond their imagination. Whatever the folk tales, legends they heard about, the myths they learned them from their culture, the imagination and their perception level is still strict to that, confined to that boundary. So desire to universalize local understanding, they tend to expand horizons. Despite their localized life, people were curious about the world beyond their immediate surroundings. There was a natural human inclination to connect to their experiences. Trade and interaction helped them to connect with the other group of the people. Occasionally, interactions with the travelers, traders, or news from distant lands, or curiosity what is happening in the other group of the other side of the place, and desire to relate to their own lives, and their perception and imagination no was confined to that storytelling and that art, that music, whatever they learned from their local people, infused with the universal human experiences, creating a bridge between the local and the global cultural exchange. When the cultural exchange thing happen in the when it is a closed community, like festivals, markets, and gatherings, mm, provided opportunities for cultural exchange when there is a festival. So when this in this period the exchange has happened, the cultural exchange things has happened, their local customs, if they like the other people customs, they learned it and they inherited them. So the colonies were spreading in that time, in that period. Adaptation has happened, and they tend to innovate new things as people learned about different ways of life and new ideas. They adapted these to their local context, enhancing their own practices and understanding while contributing to a shared human culture. So when this was a scenario, then came into the industrial revolutions. What is this industrial revolution? Industrial revolution is like factories then came into industries, factories. People used to go work there from morning till evening, and from there to we are in the scenario of IT revolution. What is industrial revolution? More of when the rural village village thing, rural thing is happening. From there to industrial revolution has happened. When industrial revolution has happened, it is more into urbanization, consumerism, capitalism. I mean, getting jobs, working there from morning till evening, and earning some money. So these things happen in the industrial revolution. Life became urban, from rural to urban. So migration things happened when the industrial revolution has taken place. Repetitive, mechanical things. That means individuals trained to repeat jobs, factories, workshops, um, office. So the repetitive things is happening daily. You wake up, go to office, come at the evening at 6. So this is the repetitive things. The industrial revolution has happened, and they tend to be more mechanical. Men and material, here men and material constituted capital. So okay, but I'll take you to the IT revolution, and then there you'll get the difference between the IT and industrial revolution. So when you talk about here, life became global. So in IT revolution, life is more global. Like here, life became urban. You find out the difference, right? So here, repetitive tasks to machineries like robots. You can nowadays, because of this globalization, you can see we have so many machineries. IA, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT is there. Computers do your work. The, the big work you can just finish it in on seconds, right? Then now we are in the robots era also. So here there is no repetitive task for men. That is only for the computers, I mean for the machines. In the industrial revolution, there were the repetitive tasks for men. Okay, so you should find out the difference for the IT and this thing. So knowledge and concepts constituted the capital. So when there is lot of time for a man, when the computer is doing your work, you have lot of time to imagine things and create new things. So what is happening in IT revolution? Knowledge and concepts are constituting the capital. They are getting money. Here. Knowledge is tending to get the money. Here, men and material constitute the capital. So pressures of urban living. It's all when they migrated from rural to the urban, there is a lot of pressure in the family, in the place. So in the new place, so pressure of urban living, and here the pressure are different. These pressures are different from the industrial revolution. Life and perceptions became global. 50% of all websites, whatever we are using in the IT revolution, is dependent upon the English language. Here, perceptions based on the regional experience. That's it. That's what we were talking about. When there is no exposure to the outer world, your imagination and your perceptions will tend to confine only to that group, to that level. So perceptions based on the regional experience were universalized, and here perceptions became global. So there is a slight difference. I think you may get this question and this short answer. So what industrial, there is a difference between industrial revolution and to IT revolution. So life became urban and migrative, where individuals are trained to repeat jobs in factories and workshops. So who created men and material created capital. When you take the IT revolution, human beings are left with more time for self articulation, critical and creative thinking. They got more time for to be creative here in IT revolution. So English and information technology. Now let us find out the um, uh, what is called the relationship between we discussed about the industrial revolution. Now the IT revolution. Now the booming thing is IT revolution. So what is the relationship between the IT revolution and English? Let's get into it. IT revolution has made English a global phenomenon. We all know that. IT chains like, what are the IT chains? Google, Apple, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, etc., all are based on English speaking countries. So, the topmost countries, whoever are ruling this IT field, are all in the English based countries. Other languages find it difficult to compete with the English. There are so many other languages, but no other languages can come to the place where English has taken place. So no languages can beat with English. That's what it's saying there. English contain all information regarding what almost all disciplines in the world. English language has become the language of the internet. Computer literacy and English literacy have become inseparable and interdependent. They are dependent with each other. That's where we can't separate them. Computer literacy and English. So the computer language, whatever the IT information technology is there, it is not separated from English. They are interdependent with each other. That's what it's saying. The information explosion in the world has happened in the English language only. Earlier, if you talk about 2000 years ago, English was a language of only science and technology. That's what we spoke when we were talking about what happened in England. What were the languages before? There were no England thought that English is not the respectable language. They thought that Latin and Greek are only the respectable languages. Now the scenario has changed. uh, Once they thought that English is only the language of science and technology, it has swiped away. So China and Japan, if you take those who are the strong in technology, we know China and Japan are strong in technology. We use China products, right? So technology, computers, hardwares are forced to learn English. So it became easier to anyone to learn one language rather than learning many in order to get a job and be mobile. Okay. So even since the world war has become very independent on the computers and the English language became the language of the internet, it has become very essential for everyone or anyone to be in touch with the contemporary world. IT revolution, if you talk about it, has brought in a large number of new words. So there was a dictionary before, and in the dictionary there were no English words, and after that they added English words into the dictionary. Now in the English dictionary there are a few words which are related to the IT field. So you can see the drastic change in the revolution. IT revolution age has brought in a large number of new words. So that resulted in changing the linguistic map of a computer lexicon. So what sort of words are those? You all know. I gave some of them. So when you write, you can pick up a few examples and give them, like app, browsing, login, log out, download, upload. So these are all the examples for the computer lexicon which we are using nowadays. So these words are also added into the dictionaries. So now what is the relationship between English and the culture? Can the two things mingle? Let's look into it. So English and culture. So since English has become international, it is not attached to any particular culture. Did you get that point there? So English has become, so it is not, English is not only confined to USA or American language. No, if it has, as it has become international and global language, this cannot be confined to any particular culture. Some of the countries, like if you take Africa and Asia, have made English a vehicle for their own culture. That means they made English for as a vehicle. They made English language as a vehicle for their own language.
Present Nagaland, also India, they speak in English.
Oh, right. Okay. So, if you take which city speaks, number of the person speaking English is more in which country? If you talk about the city in India, it is Bangalore. They say it is Bangalore. Okay. Words of Indian origin have found their own way into English. Like our Indian words are also found their own way into the English language. That means these words are also added in our dictionaries, like Brahmins, Curry, Coolie, Bangla. These languages are not come from English language. These words are Indian languages. Words, Indian language words. These are also added into our dictionaries now. So Indian writing, why they are why there are given few examples? Because English and culture go in hand in hand. That means they mingle. So it is like when you see English, when you add English and gibberish, they'll say Tinglish, so Hinglish. So when you mix Hindi and English, they'll say Hinglish. It is like that. So culture and English go in hand. You tend to bring that English language into your culture and make a new word. It happens. So so for the words like Brahmins, there is no alternative for the word like Brahmin. You can't get a new word for a Brahmin. So it should be added. Definitely it should be added. If someone says Brahmins, it is like you can't take another word, new English word. So you have to call them as Brahmins. If you have to call a Bangla as a Bangla. So these new words which India has incorporated with, or also added in the dictionaries. IT words are also added in the dictionary, as well as culture, whatever the culture we came from through. So those words are also added in the dictionary. Indian writing of idiomatic translations, these were also added. You know what is idioms, right? So idiomatic translations like flower bed, poola parpu antarga. So just like that. So idiomatic translations are also added in the our Indian dictionaries. So other expressions like newspaper wala. So wala, newspaper wala, we call him as newspaper wala. So these expressions are also given credit. English outnumber the speakers of even some languages like Assamese. Oxford English Dictionary lists about 900 such words, as I told you. So when there are new words coming up with you, even if they the culture and the English, whatever, together going hand in hand, when the new words are arising, so when people, the scholars sit together and decide whether this can be added in the Oxford English, then they decided like putting 900 such kind of words. So normally when language goes with the culture, like what Indians did with the Persian language. So Persian, Arabic, and Sanskrit together are the byproducts of all these. The new languages came up like Urdu. So both the cultures go in hand in hand and come with the and with the new product. So in such way, so if you take English India and the Indian language, they have done something similar to the British language. Same thing. Increasing number of English medium schools and colleges, universities, the number of English using Indians also increased enormously. So when this enormity happened, politicians, bureaucrats, academics, lawyers, media people, businessmen, and many others started using English. There were in contact with the native variety. So when so many people are speaking English, there automatically gets contact with the native variety. This has resulted in remaking of English in different ways. For example, American detached it from British culture, and it made it their own vehicle. Like most of the American in their first language, the same it is true with the Australia also. So there is a term called lingua franca. I forgot to tell that there is a word called lingua franca. What does it mean? It means that,
It's a
sorry.
link language.
Yeah, bridge language. You can also say bridge language, common language, trade language. So the link language, English is such a language, is so widely spoken. It has often been called as a world language, and there is a term for that is lingua franca of the modern era. Okay, so when we talk about globalization, let's talk about the impact on the communication. What globalization has done and what the impact it has given for the communication. It is possible one to have, for example, if you take we can have breakfast in Delhi, lunch in Hong Kong, and dinner in San Francisco, right? The jet age, the aircraft, whatever the creation they have done, because of that this is possible. Okay, globalization and its impact on the communication. The jet-powered aircraft became the dominant mode of air travel. This era marked the significant advantage in aviation technology. Then comes what? After the jet age revolutionized transportation by drastically reducing travel time across the long distance and making global travel easy, accessible, and commonplace. Then comes internet. With the internet also you can speak to the person sitting in America or doing somewhere no corner of the world. So you can speak to any person sitting here from your corner to the other corner, right? So uh, jet has because of the jet powered aircraft, the traveling has become easy, and the connection with the people also became easy because of this internet. You sit with your desktop like how we are doing. We are attending the classes sitting in our homes, right? The I by what it happened just because of the internet. If there is no internet, we cannot go with the online classes, right? So this internet has made this thing possible, is long distance and reducing travel. This has became easy because of the aircraft. That sitting in front of the TV, you can see the what happening in the whole wide world, right? There's so after the telephone era, like you sit in one place and talk to any other person. So these things all took the revolution, whatever it has brought us. There are indeed very few places on earth where you cannot contact, you cannot get that signals. Enable communication gives more mobility ability and more time to do several things in a day. It is possible to try and accomplish more than one task at a time because of this whatever revolutionized we got through. To this potential increase one's capacity to make more money. So globalization and its impact on the communication, what all possibilities are that. So what are the possibilities that we talk about? Jet, TV, telephone, and then when we talk about library, there is no, nowadays there is no need to go to library, there is no need to go to mall. So everything became easy at just one click or one button. So we can do all our things. Food, we are getting at our doorsteps through Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato, right? Library, we have our interlibrary loan system in internet. So there are few places all I like, you can worship in the internet, like the software called e-puja, online classes, whatever we're doing. You know what e-seva does. So we can pay all our bills in e-seva sitting in at home. We are doing our transactions nowadays in GPay and phone pay. So what a revolutionized things we are getting. We don't know what happens to the world in 10 years or 20 years. So these are the impacts that we are facing, we are experiencing. So English has, even countries that have a deep rooted version of English are now opting for English language there. So for example, they some English language also has rivals. Okay, so some people doesn't like English. There are few rival countries for English also. So people who thought that English is not okay global language, or English is not that supreme language or respectable language, also now opting for English. So it has changed.
Our Prime Minister speaks Hindi only.
Yeah. Yeah. So English has been there in subcontinent for more than 200 years. If you talk about China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, efforts are on to catch up. These all are trying to catch up English. I mean, they wanted to learn. And that's interesting part is like if we compare ourselves with China and Japan, we are so fortunate to learn English because our in European language was kind of related to English. So that our mouth, the tongue, we can easily pronounce the English language when it compares to China and Japan. China people and Japan people face a lot of difficulty when they talk English. So for us, it is very easy to learn English, and for them, it is so hard. They should put so much effort to learn English that we should be thankful of. Okay. Okay, let's get into our topic. These countries are justifiable afraid that unless they master English, they will not be able to keep the pace with the rest of the world. That's what I'm trying to say. China, Japan, Malaysia, who were no, they have their own language. Like they did not give much importance to English as much as we gave. We understood English as a globalized language. We know what is it bringing us. We understood about the depth of the English language that so that we can come to a group of people called anglicized people are the ones who understood the importance of the language. It is not the favoring of any religion or caste, but they understood what this language is. So we are such kind of people. Indian are such kind of people who saw the importance. So then we grabbed that knowledge, even though Western thought that they are influencing us, but we thought that this language has some weight. So we tend to learn. We showed so much of interest, gave so much of importance to the English studies, universities, colleges. So we found it very easy to learn. But when it compared to the other countries, they faced a difficulty. They will not be. They thought that these countries thought that they will not keep up with us. They cannot keep up with the other rest of the world if they are not learning English. That's what linguistic experts, whoever the linguistic experts are, they said that Indians find it very easy to learn when compared to the other countries like China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, etc. So they have the different tone. Chinese and Japanese find it difficult to learn English because they have a tone. Have you ever come across any of the movies? Then you can understand that they have a different tone comparing to the Indian language. So success in the global economy depend only on good English. So if you know good English, then you are successful. Indo-European languages have common features: Italic, Germanic, Baldo-Slavic, Hellenic, or all these, European. What are the European languages means? You can see there. Those are the European languages. And why we don't face much difficulty, then you can check there in the last 4 lines. I gave you the English, Latin, Sanskrit, German. Those were
Madam,
the
they used to speak, but the pronunciation is different from our pronunciation.
yeah.
Language, yeah. English, most of them they speak, but
Now they speak, but this is a
yeah,
scenario when they thought that English is not no as important as that. So when now everybody speaks, so now there is no rivalries for any
yes.
yeah
But still, the pronunciations are different.
different
Kerala, Malayalam, the
yeah
different pronunciation.
yeah
Like that, so much
yeah.
different.
If you see English, Latin, Sanskrit, English is mother, father, brother. Then when it comes to Latin, it is mater, pater, frater. Can you see that? German, Mutter, Vater, Bruder. So then the linguistic nature, whatever we have, is quietly related. English is quietly related to the European languages. So it is becoming easy for us to learn. Sanskrit lo kuda same ade. You can see that whoever the Sanskrit experts are, so you can understand the relationship. So that's why we find it easy to learn English language when comparing it to Chinese and Japanese. China and Japan a country. Okay, globalization and its impact on the English language. Then the field begins to look more level between the child in small town and the child in metros, elite public school. That's the current scenario. See, anyone now speak very good English. Now everything has changed comparing to how English got into the universities. If you see that um, period, and now it's a period of revolution. So any child from the small town, small government school is speaking very fluently when you are comparing to any international school. So we should thanks to the interactive teaching sectors like e-learning platforms, we should thank to our online classes also. For example, language apps, there are so many language apps you can learn from, virtual classrooms, you have also educational games, online tutoring is there, social media learning communities are there. So we are very much contact with all, we have so many possibilities for learning English. In India, around 30% of the population, which equates to the approximately 4 million people, can speak English to some extent. This includes fluent and I mean native and non-native speakers, fluent speakers, and those with basic proficiency and with much proficiency. Both are there. So this is the estimated population. Keep that in mind. Strangely, even absolutely literate people as 400 borrowed 400 words from English as part of their mother tongue, like bulb, switch, bus, fan, coat, etc. So these are the languages which are borrowed from Indian, from our mother tongue to the English. So English has few rivals. We already spoke. What are the other languages for English rivals? Is Spanish, German, Russian, Arabic. The United States has become the superpower now, mainly because of it uses English. So what was the first dictionary? Let's talk about the dictionary. The first dictionary was Samuel Johnson's dictionary. This was published, the publication date was 1755. The
It's
title of
available, madam, presently.
this
It's not.
dictionary,
Yeah, Samuel
I think
Johnson.
you'll hardly get it. So because this is you can see the year there. So maybe few people has it now. Okay, the dictionary of the English language. Significance, what was the significance? It was the most comprehensive. And if you ask me, were there only, this was the only first dictionary? If you get that question in mind, no, this was not the first dictionary. There were also the other dictionaries,
The
but
first dictionary, ma'am, first dictionary was by Robert Cordray. It was named a table of
alphabetical, yeah.
alphabets. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there were three dictionaries before this. And this is only we are talking about Samuel Johnson dictionary because this dictionary concentrated on the English language. But the other dictionaries consider the first thing, whatever you said is the first English dictionary. It was relatively small volume that focused on hard words. You're getting me? That was dictionary only for hard words. And there is another dictionary. I think there are three dictionaries. Another early dictionary that included difficult words and their explanations. Okay, so and the other one may be a dictionary for the early ones, including more words and detailed explanations, and a different kind of dictionary. So those three did not, your textbook is not saying about those three. Your textbook is saying about only Samuel Johnson dictionary because this has a different significance. It was the most comprehensive and authoritative dictionary, like unlike other dictionaries like which concentrated only on the difficult words. No, it was not like that. It was authoritative dictionary and comprehensive dictionary of its time, setting the standard of the future dictionary. You can say this has set the standard for the other dictionaries which are now in contact with and we are using. What are the contents it has? That means the dictionary included over 40,000 entities and entries and provided detailed definitions, examples, and usage and etymologies. That's why it has its own significance. If you talk about Samuel Johnson dictionary, why it has why we are talking about only Samuel Johnson, because he just not concentrated on the difficult words or the hard words or only on the literature purpose. No, he concentrated on on providing detailed definitions for all the words, with examples and their usage and the etymologies. So this has break the ground. So from Johnson, they have they got the example for all the dictionaries. Then we can talk about the Oxford English Dictionary. So this is the main dictionary we all are using now. So
When it is, madam, year it mentioned.
Sorry.
Year.
Year, yeah.
Yeah, Oxford, when it was begun.
Yeah, I did not check into it. I'll get to you that.
Okay.
I'll bring
1928, ma'am.
1928.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Right.
1928. So Indian English, what is that Indian English? That is called Hinglish. Indian English is a hybrid of English and the Indian languages. So it has become a widely accepted dialect and is a part of India's culture identity. What are the recent additions? If we see, you can see the words like chai, namaste, guru. We call Sadguru as guru, right? So, and what bapu, bhai, chutney. These all are the recent additions of Oxford. There are so many, and I'm just talking about the recent additions. So these inclusions demonstrate the dynamic nature of the English language and its ability to incorporate words with diverse cultures and the global influence of Indian culture and the language. Now, this is an important question. I think this is a all-time question for in your exams, communication skills in English. Shall we take this further in the next class? Communication skills is important. This is a must question.
Continue, ma'am.
I think it's time up.
This and continue my last one. This you can finish this.
Okay, communication skills. Whatever the total is, English is more widely scattered. Whatever the total languages we have, English is only language that is mostly scattered, widespread, mostly spoken, more widely written than any other language has ever been. Okay, communication skills in English have worldwide market because English is the language of, remember, English is a language of technology, sciences, business, commerce, journalism, media, internet, IT-enabled services. These all things, if you are good at all things and you don't know English, it's of no use. So English is a language of all these together. English has internationally as well as national, both the markets. It is estimated that there are about so and so billion English speakers worldwide. These includes both native and non-native speakers and English as a second language. It has become the language of the planet. English has become the language of the planet. And there is a saying called the sun never sets in English language. It is actually the sun never sets in British something it is there. So they bought it from there, the metaphor. When you are, I think you came across in English literature, you're coming across metaphors, similes, antidote, right? Who is teaching English literature?
We haven't studied. Vijaya, madam.
Yeah. So if you take English literature, there are few expressions when you're writing a literature or a poem or anything, they have few expressions. So there is a metaphor, there is a simile, there is anecdote. So this is a metaphor. It is really not, what is a metaphor? It is really not sun is setting on the east. It is just you are comparing.
Comparison.
Yeah.
Implicit comparison.
Yes, comparison. So there is a comparison for the British rule. So as British is enormous, spreading its wings in all the Indian subcontinent. So they said someone said that the sun never sets with British rule. So the same thing they bought here, and they are telling that the sun never sets in English language. That means there is no end for the English language. This is just a metaphor. So language of international communication. 75% of the world's mails, telegrams, cables, and all these are in English spoken and written. So remember the percentage. Language of science and technology is 98%. I'm talking about the universe, total world. Language of the internet is 60%. I mean, the content in English. There are also the other contents like another languages, but content in English in the internet is 60%. The European market has adopted English as its common language. This language is also about sports and glamour. If you take Olympics and if you take Miss Universe competitions, they are speaking in English. So this is a language of sport and this is a language of glamour also. This is a language of, see, if you take the five largest broadcasting companies now in this world, it is BBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, and CBC. So these all five companies are using English. So English language has few rivals, not equals. It only has enemies, but nobody can compete with. So English language has few rivals, but no equals. Throughout history, English has had several rival languages, which can be in prominent at different times and regions. These languages have mm, vivid for dominance in various spheres, such as trade, culture, diplomacy, or maybe in academics. So what are the languages for the English language was? As I told you, it's Latin, French, Spanish, Dutch, German, Russian, Chinese, Arabic. All these languages will come into the rivals of the English language. These rivalries have been shaped by historical, economical, and cultural shifts, with the English emerging as a dominant global language only relatively recently in the grand scope of history. That's all for today. You have more points in communication skills in English because this is a must question.
But in some areas, the few people are speaking English, madam. Yeah, how much it is?
Where?
Yeah, like rural.
Mm-mm.
Cities, okay, but rural.
Rural. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't use it as a common language, but if you see, we have come across in the news, like if you
Suppose
see, go
in
into
Chennai,
some
they go to
government,
Chennai.
yeah,
Chennai, they speak in English. When they enter and go into Tamil Nadu, they
yes,
can't speak in their Tamil.
yeah, because they are so much in love with their mother language.
The mother tongue,
But it
yeah.
doesn't mean that they are not into English. They even Keralites, sorry, Tamilians will speak very good English, but they use this only for the official purpose. And when they enter into their home, they go with their mother tongue.
Okay, thank you, madam. But madam, where we'll get the notes and we can have anyone sending that?
Sorry?
Anyone getting the notes, sending these groups? No, no. Material, madam. It's notes you are
I
giving
think
now.
I think there
Someone,
is, yeah, there
yeah.
is no material. You have to just go through your textbooks.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you really want some material, I can only provide whatever see, whatever I'm teaching is only from your textbook. There is nothing bought from any other things. Any other sources like in from Google or from anything. So your textbook is very good in it is covering all the topics. So it's
No, no.
just we
Right now,
need,
how many units cover?
say, we covered transportation phase completely.
And expansion phase also.
Yeah, and the globalization phase, if you take the contents there, we also covered global English and local cultures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, globalization and English communication skills is which is important. So if I finish last two topics like global English and local cultures, then you're done with the
Oh,
globalization phase. So
okay,
then,
okay.
yeah,
This we didn't cover, no? This institutional
block
phase.
3 and block 4 is a vast thing, and that's why I'm trying to take it no, at the end.
Block 1, block 2, block 5 is over.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, exactly.
Yes,
So
sure.
why I'm taking block 1, block 2, and then I'm jumping into block 5, because these are the interesting topics. When you go to
Yeah.
institutionalized phase, and there is a broader topics on the universities, education, colleges, so you don't find it much
Committee,
importance. Yeah, you
commissions.
don't find it interesting, but you should read it however. So let's first finish the interesting topics and then later go with the um non-interesting topics like block 3.
Commissions, man.
Yeah.
This all coming.
Yeah, committees and commissions, and then institutionalized phase, the evolution of English in India during the world wars, first and second. That thing we can go see into the institutionalized phase. That means you understood what is a transportation phase. You you got all the topics in transportation phase. Now what after transportation there is an expansion phase, the spreading, the scattering phase. Then there is a phase called institutional phase. Then there is a phase called identity phase. So as much as I know, we are very good done with the transportation phase, and we have covered few topics in expansion phase. We didn't cover Indian Universities Act. That thing we didn't cover.
Tomorrow, what will do, madam?
Tomorrow I'll take that Indian Education Commission, and then after talking about expansion phase of the last two units, and then I'll finish the globalization phase, and we'll be all done with the block 1, block 2, block 5 completely. Okay? And the block 3 and block 4 will be remaining.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, madam.
Yes.
As you wish.
Yeah. You understood the class today, right? Let's wind up and let's meet tomorrow, okay? Take care, bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.